When art sales slow down, most artists think it's got to be marketing, maybe it's crazy Instagram, maybe they need to post more, maybe it's pricing, maybe they need to discount something, maybe it's the economy and nobody has any money to buy right now. So they think it's time to push harder. And sometimes that's true. After working inside Nike product cycles and building a stationery company to $250K a year business, and selling my own art for over a decade, I've seen another pattern. Sometimes slow art sales aren't about marketing at all. They aren't about pricing, they aren't about the economy. Sometimes they're actually a sign that a chapter is ending for you as an artist. And if you misread that moment, you can trap yourself into something that's already run its course, no matter how hard you market it and push it. Let me explain what happened to me. I didn't think something was wrong. I thought maybe I just needed to push harder. Over the years, I was working on my sculpture series. So in the beginning, I was giving my work to a gallery, and anytime I gave them something, it was selling quicker than I could put it on the gallery wall. I couldn't even get it photographed on the gallery wall. And this was amazing, but also exciting because it felt rare, it felt electric, and it felt like my voice had finally landed. And then the shift over the years, what happened is a few artists started to pivot and started to come on the scene and create a crowded market. They started switching from something else like florals to similar minimal sculpture work like mine. They were starting to make it cheaper. They were starting to make it look like that, where it became sort of like a pick a style category. And Instagram started filling up with these versions of this look. And I started seeing DIY videos pop up from friends who were like, oh my gosh, look at this. So it wasn't that they were exactly like mine, but in a saturated market where there was a whole bunch of looks now, it became super crowded and very much not the area that I had over here as a small island. So emotionally, this made me really feel disappointed. I felt angry, I felt sad, and at this point, my work started feeling not special to me. It felt like I was one of many. And so I personally felt this disconnection from my art. So there was all sorts of temptations. Do I discount? Do I push more? Do I compete to hold my ground? Do I defend my originality, pointing out how mine is different? But the reality is, if I was to compete and stay in the lane that we all had now, it was going to be a very competitive area, and competing on price would mean that I would be competing for the lowest price, because in a very crowded market, the lowest price always wins. And my process wasn't cheap, wasn't fast, and I was really enjoying it up until it started feeling like I was repeating what was already out there. I felt this disconnect, and it was really uninspiring for me as an artist. And that's not why I personally became an artist. So here's the bigger pattern I've seen, and I want to share this with you today because this is not exclusive to us as artists. Everything that sells well eventually reaches saturation. When it sells well, it's just going to happen. So I've seen this at Nike, I've seen this in my stationery business, and I've seen this in my art. So something is new, and then it gets adopted, and then it gets crowded, and then it gets really competitive. So in this area where it becomes really much bigger, this becomes a super crowded market, and eventually things fall off and the market doesn't really have any interest in it anymore. This is how the market works, and that's not failure as an artist. That's just how the market moves. That's just what happens no matter what product we're selling. So when sales slow, the instinct is we want to save the thing, preserve the thing. But if the market has shifted, pushing harder only drains your energy faster. And so you end up competing on price, repeating what's already out there, and becoming a factory. And again, that's not why I became an artist. That's where a lot of artists lose their spark. And so if you misread the moment, you trap yourself into something that no longer feels alive and exciting like it was over here, which is what happened to me. So the decision becomes difficult, but we have to decide, do I want to compete in a crowded market and in a crowded phase of this product life cycle, Or do I want to evolve into the next chapter and become something new? Most artists try to protect what worked because we invest so much time and energy. It's understandable why we would do that. But the artists I admire most are in it for the discovery. They're in it for the growth. They're in it for the depth. They're not in it for the repetition and repeating themselves. What I realized also that surprised me is I don't think I would have evolved that quickly if the market wouldn't have shifted. It forced me to decide whether I was protecting what was working or start evolving who I was becoming next as an artist. If I had protected what was working, I would have missed discovering who I would become next. And that's happened to me over the years. Every time I go to evolve, I get better as an artist and I create much stronger work. So I have so much gratitude for being able to evolve and adapt and grow. And this sometimes is forced on us and sometimes it's a choice. But ultimately, I think the strong artists don't panic when something slows down. They just ask, has this phase reached its natural limit? Is the market really crowded now? Is my energy still there? Or am I invited to grow next and become something different? And they also understand that one successful chapter doesn't define the whole book. This is just one chapter in the whole book. Just because this one chapter is over for me doesn't mean that the end of the book is closed. It's just the new chapter. So when something works, repetition feels safe, definitely. But safety and growth rarely live in the same place. And art sales slowing isn't always a warning. Sometimes it's an invitation. And every time I've personally accepted the invitation, my work has deepened and I keep finding the voice that feels truer to me as an artist. And I'm making work that I'm even more proud of. I'll see you in the next video.